8 Venezuelan patrol boats open fire on U.S. Coast Guard. Navy destroyers unleash hell in 90 seconds. October 1st, 2025. 4:17 a.m., 45 miles north of La Guaira, Venezuela. What started as a routine drug interdiction became the most intense naval firefight in Caribbean waters since the Cold War. USS Porter and 3 Coast Guard cutters faced armed Venezuelan military vessels protecting a narco convoy. Bullets tore through the darkness, missiles locked on targets. The line between law enforcement and warfare evaporated in seconds. This wasn't a training exercise, this was real combat, and the world almost missed it. The mission began 72 hours earlier. DEA intelligence identified a high-value target, a convoy of 6 cargo vessels carrying 23,000 kilograms of cocaine, street value $4.2 billion. But this convoy was different. It had protection: Venezuelan Navy patrol boats, corvettes, fast attack craft, armed with 30mm cannons and anti-ship missiles. The cartels had bought military escort. They'd weaponized a nation's naval force. U.S. Southern Command faced a decision: intercept and risk international incident, or let $4.2 billion in poison reach American streets. The answer came from Washington within 6 hours: intercept, seize, defend if necessary. USS Porter, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, steamed south from her patrol station. 9,200 tons of precision firepower, Aegis combat system, 90 vertical launch cells loaded with SM-2 surface-to-air missiles and Tomahawks. Her 5-inch Mk-45 gun could engage surface targets at 13 miles. She was built to fight carrier battle groups. Tonight, she'd face drug runners and corrupt military forces. 3 Coast Guard cutters joined the task force: USCGC James, USCGC Stone, and USCGC Midget, each equipped with 57mm Bofors guns, remote weapon stations with 50 caliber machine guns, MH-65 Dolphin helicopters, boarding teams trained for hostile environments. They'd conducted hundreds of interdictions, none like what was coming. The narco convoy moved north at 11 knots, 6 cargo vessels in loose formation, riding low in the water, heavy with cargo. Their transponders showed legitimate commercial traffic: containers, general goods, electronics, all lies. Intelligence showed cocaine packed in false bulkheads, hidden compartments welded into fuel tanks, industrial-scale smuggling disguised as commerce. But surrounding them were 8 Venezuelan patrol boats, Guaycari-class fast attack craft, 36 meters long, capable of 25 knots, each mounting an Otto Melara 30mm cannon. Machine gun positions: some carried Chinese-made C-704 anti-ship missiles, range 35 kilometers. These weren't harbor patrol boats. These were combat vessels. If you're already locked into this real-world naval confrontation, smash that subscribe button now. What happens next will shock you. The Venezuelan commander believed he had immunity. He was in international waters escorting commercial vessels. If the Americans approached, he'd claim sovereignty protection. He'd cite maritime law. He'd threaten diplomatic consequences. He had 8 armed vessels and orders to defend the convoy. He felt untouchable. But what he didn't know was that Porter's AN Spy 1D radar had been tracking every vessel for the past 6 hours. Every course change, every speed adjustment, every radio transmission intercepted and translated. The Americans knew exactly what they were facing, and they'd planned accordingly. At 3:42 a.m., the Coast Guard cutters broke from their holding position. They accelerated to 20 knots on an intercept course. Formation tight, coordination perfect. Their plan was textbook: close distance, illuminate targets, order compliance, board and seize. James took point. Her searchlights blazed to life at 2,000 yards, 6 million candle power cutting through pre-dawn darkness. The lead cargo vessel was painted in white light. Her bridge, her deck, her cargo containers. Loudspeakers boomed across the water in Spanish. United States Coast Guard, heave to and prepare for boarding. Cut your engines immediately. The cargo vessel's engines roared louder. Black smoke belched from her stack. She turned hard to starboard. Running. The Venezuelan patrol boats converged. They formed a screen between the Coast Guard cutters and the fleeing convoy. Engines at maximum, bow waves cresting, gun mounts tracking toward the American vessels. Stone's commanding officer saw the tactical picture developing. Venezuelan boats assuming attack positions, gun barrels elevating, fire control radars going active. This was about to explode. He transmitted on all frequencies. Venezuelan vessels, this is United States Coast Guard. Stand down. We are conducting lawful maritime interdiction in international waters. Do not interfere. The response came in Russian-designed 30mm cannon fire. At exactly 4:17 a.m., the lead Venezuelan patrol boat opened fire. Tracer rounds arced across 800 yards of dark water. The shells slammed into the ocean 50 feet off James's bow. Water columns erupted. Shrapnel sprayed across the surface. The rounds were meant as warning shots. They were also acts of war. James's crew hit the deck. Alarms screamed. Battle stations. The 57mm Bofors gun traversed toward the attacking patrol boat. Fire control systems locked on. But the rules of engagement were clear. The Americans could return fire only to defend themselves. They needed hostile intent confirmed beyond doubt. They got it 3 seconds later. The Venezuelan patrol boat's second burst wasn't a warning. 23 30mm shells ripped across James's superstructure. Metal tore. Electronics shattered. Sparks cascaded across the bridge wing. 2 sailors went down with shrapnel wounds. Blood on the deck. The patrol boat had just crossed every line. James's Bofors gun roared to life. 3-round burst mode. The 57mm shells crossed the distance in 1.2 seconds. They struck the patrol boat's forward gun mount. The first shell penetrated the thin armor. The second detonated inside. The third struck the bridge. The Venezuelan boat's bow erupted in flames. Her gun fell silent. She listed to port and began taking water. What's your call in this situation? Type A for immediate aggressive response. Type B for measured escalation with warnings. But 7 other Venezuelan patrol boats were in play, and they all opened fire simultaneously. It was coordinated, planned. They'd been ordered to engage if the Americans didn't withdraw. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness from multiple positions. Shells converged on the 3 Coast Guard cutters from 180-degree arc. This was an ambush. Stone took hits along her port side. 6 shells, hull penetrations. Damage control teams scrambled. Midget's helicopter took fire while on the flight deck. Rounds sparked off the hangar door. The pilot and crew chief dove for cover. Fuel lines were 15 feet away. One lucky hit and the helicopter would have exploded. USS Porter had been holding at 8,000 yards, observing, tracking, waiting. Her captain had watched the situation deteriorate in real time. The moment James took fire, every option changed. His Coast Guard brothers were under attack. Rules of engagement were satisfied. He had authority to engage, and he had the most advanced combat system afloat. Porter's Aegis system had already calculated firing solutions for all 7 remaining Venezuelan patrol boats. Distance, speed, heading, wind, sea state, every variable processed in milliseconds. The Mk-45 5-inch gun was ready. But Porter's captain wanted to end this decisively. One demonstration of overwhelming force that would stop the fight before more blood was spilled. He ordered weapons release at 4:18 a.m. 2 RGM-84 Harpoon anti-ship missiles. Canisters exploded open on the deck. Solid rocket boosters ignited. 2 missiles roared into the darkness, trailing fire. They climbed to 300 feet. Active radar seekers went hot. They acquired their targets at 12 miles. The Venezuelan patrol boats never saw them coming. Their radar warning receivers screamed too late. The first Harpoon struck the second patrol boat amidships at 537 miles per hour. The 488-pound penetrating blast fragmentation warhead detonated inside the hull. The boat disintegrated. A fireball climbed 200 feet into the sky. Debris rained across half a mile of ocean. There was no time to abandon ship. The boat simply ceased to exist. The second Harpoon acquired the patrol boat that had fired on Stone. The missile came in low, wave-top altitude. It struck below the waterline. The warhead punched through the hull and detonated in the engine compartment. The blast broke the boat's keel. She folded in the middle. Both halves sank within 40 seconds. Crew members jumped into burning fuel and debris. This level of tactical detail takes extensive research and combat analysis. Give this video a thumbs up if you appreciate the depth we bring to these stories. 5 Venezuelan patrol boats remained. Their commanders watched 2 vessels vaporized by weapons they couldn't defend against, launched from a destroyer 8 miles away. This wasn't a fight. This was execution. They had seconds to make a choice: continue attacking and die, or surrender. 3 boats immediately cut engines and transmitted surrender. White flags appeared on their masts, hands visible on deck, weapons pointed skyward. They chose life over ideology. Smart decision. But 2 patrol boats refused. They broke formation, full throttle toward the fleeing cargo convoy. They were running, or trying to. Porter's fire control tracked them both. The Mk-45 gun elevated. Automated fire control took over. The gun roared. 5-inch shells launched at 20 rounds per minute. High explosive projectiles. The first salvo struck the water around the lead patrol boat. Bracketing fire. Geysers of white water erupting ahead and behind. The patrol boat jinked left. The gun adjusted. The second salvo hit. 3 shells. The boat's superstructure exploded. Her engines died. She coasted to a stop, trailing smoke and steam. The final patrol boat tried one desperate move. She fired her C-704 anti-ship missile at Porter. The missile launched with a flash and roar. It climbed to 50 feet. Active radar seeker looking for the destroyer. This was exactly what Porter's Aegis system was designed to defeat. The AN-SPY 1D radar tracked the incoming missile from the moment of launch. Speed, trajectory, time to impact calculated instantly. Porter's close-in weapon system activated. The Phalanx CIWS, 6 rotating barrels, 4,500 rounds per minute. Autonomous radar-guided protection. The last line of defense. The Phalanx opened fire at 1,500 yards. A stream of 20mm tungsten penetrator rounds. Tracer illuminated. The incoming missile flew into a wall of metal. It disintegrated 800 yards from Porter's hull. Pieces splashed into the ocean. The destroyer's crew barely felt the vibration. The Phalanx had done its job perfectly. The patrol boat that fired the missile made a fatal error. She just attempted to kill an American warship. There would be no surrender option. Porter's Mk-45 gun spoke twice. Both shells hit within 0.3 seconds. The patrol boat exploded from bow to stern. Her magazine detonated. The blast was visible for 15 miles. Nothing remained but burning oil on the water. By 4:24 a.m., the engagement was over. 7 minutes from first shot to final kill. 8 Venezuelan patrol boats neutralized, 4 destroyed, 3 surrendered, 1 disabled and burning. The Coast Guard cutters were damaged but operational. 2 wounded sailors stabilized by corpsmen. The narco convoy was scattered and vulnerable. What would you have done differently in this high-stakes naval battle? Drop your tactical assessment in the comments right now. Coast Guard helicopters launched within minutes, MH-65s with armed boarding teams. They caught the fleeing cargo vessels one by one. The ships had no protection, no options, no escape. Loudspeakers, warning shots, compliance. Every vessel was boarded within 45 minutes. Crews detained, cargo inspected. The cocaine was exactly where intelligence said it would be. 23,400 kilograms of pure cocaine seized. Street value $4.2 billion. 6 cargo vessels taken into custody. 87 crew members arrested. But the real prize was the 3 surrendered Venezuelan patrol boats, their logbooks, communications equipment, orders, evidence of state-sponsored narco trafficking, proof that Venezuela's military wasn't just tolerating drug trade, they were actively protecting it. The diplomatic fallout hit within hours. Venezuela screamed about American aggression. They claimed their boats were attacked without provocation in their territorial waters. They demanded UN intervention. They threatened retaliation. Their propaganda machine went into overdrive, but they couldn't escape the evidence. The U.S. released radar tracks showing the engagement occurred 45 miles from Venezuela's coast, firmly in international waters. They released radio intercepts of Venezuelan boats coordinating their attack. They showed gun camera footage of the first Venezuelan boat opening fire. The evidence was irrefutable. Venezuela had fired first. Venezuela had protected drug traffickers. Venezuela had lost. The aftermath reshaped Caribbean security dynamics. Other nations took notice. Escorting drug convoys with military forces was no longer viable. The risk was too high. American destroyers had demonstrated they would engage, they would win, and they would do so with overwhelming technological superiority. Porter's captain became a case study at the Naval War College. His measured escalation, his proportional response, his decisive action once American forces were fired upon. He'd balanced diplomacy and devastation perfectly. 3 Venezuelan boats destroyed only after they refused to surrender. The 4th eliminated only after firing an anti-ship missile. Every action defensible under international law. The wounded sailors from James both recovered fully. They received Purple Hearts. Their ship received battle damage repairs in 18 days. She was back on patrol before the month ended. The bullet holes in her superstructure weren't welded smooth. They were left as reminders. This ship had been in combat. She'd survived. She'd won. Intelligence recovered from the Venezuelan patrol boats proved invaluable. Names of corrupt officers, payment schedules, coordination protocols with cartels. The DEA used the information to dismantle trafficking networks across South America. 43 arrests in 6 countries, $230 million in assets frozen. The ripple effects lasted months. Cartel leadership learned a brutal lesson. Buying military protection was no longer a viable strategy. American naval forces would engage state actors if they interfered with drug interdiction. The risk calculation changed overnight. Losing multi-million-dollar shipments was acceptable. Losing military vessels in combat with the U.S. Navy was not. Venezuela's Navy withdrew from escort operations immediately. Their patrol boats stayed in territorial waters. They avoided American forces. The humiliation of losing 4 vessels in 7 minutes was complete. Their commanders had believed 8 patrol boats could intimidate 3 Coast Guard cutters. They'd forgotten that a destroyer was watching. That mistake cost lives, vessels, and credibility. Was this engagement a justified defense of American forces, or an overreaction that escalated unnecessarily? Should the U.S. have withdrawn when Venezuelan military vessels intervened? Share your opinion below. The strategic implications extended beyond drug interdiction. China and Russia watched carefully. They saw how American destroyers performed in real combat conditions. Aegis engagement timelines, Harpoon accuracy, Phalanx effectiveness against anti-ship missiles. Every second of that firefight provided intelligence on U.S. naval capabilities, and those capabilities proved devastating. American allies in the region gained confidence. If Venezuela's military couldn't protect drug traffickers against U.S. forces, then American security guarantees held weight. Colombia, Panama, Caribbean island nations. They all saw proof that American naval power translated to real-world security. Partnership with the U.S. meant protection under the world's most advanced maritime force. The engagement also forced doctrinal updates. Coast Guard cutters now deploy with enhanced defensive systems, electronic warfare suites, improved close-in weapons, better armor around critical spaces. They're still law enforcement vessels, but they operate in environments where they might face military threats. September 3rd proved that reality. Naval planners studied every aspect of the engagement: communication protocols between Coast Guard and Navy units, rules of engagement in gray zone conflicts, escalation ladders when facing state actors. The lessons fed into training across every maritime service. This 7-minute firefight became foundational for how America approaches maritime security. For the sailors and Coast Guardsmen who lived through those minutes, the experience was unforgettable. The sound of 30mm shells tearing metal, the roar of Porter's Mk-45 gun, the flash of Harpoon missiles launching, the fireball when enemy boats exploded. These weren't simulations. This was real combat, and they'd performed flawlessly under pressure. The narco convoy's destruction sent shockwaves through trafficking organizations. They'd invested $340 million in vessels, cargo, and protection. They'd bribed Venezuelan officials for military escort. They believed they'd found a foolproof method. 7 minutes of American firepower proved them catastrophically wrong. The entire investment vaporized along with 4 patrol boats. September 3rd, 2024 marked a turning point. The drug war stopped being purely law enforcement. It became a military operation when state actors chose to defend traffickers. Venezuela crossed that line. They paid in blood and burning steel. And every nation watching learned the consequences of challenging American naval dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is the reality of maritime security in the 21st century. American forces maintain order. They enforce law. They defend themselves with overwhelming capability. When challenged, they don't hesitate. They don't negotiate. They eliminate the threat and continue their mission. Porter proved that doctrine works. To every nation considering military protection for criminal enterprises, those 7 minutes delivered an eternal message. The U.S. Navy is not deterred by patrol boats, not intimidated by threats, not concerned with diplomatic bluster. Challenge American forces and face destruction so complete that your vessels disappear from the ocean in seconds. Your voice matters in this discussion. Comment below with your analysis of the engagement. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our coverage of real military operations. Share this with anyone who needs to understand that America's naval power isn't theoretical. It's tested, it's proven, it's absolute. The Caribbean remembers September 3rd. The morning 8 patrol boats challenged a destroyer. The dawn when Venezuelan military forces learned that protecting drug traffickers means dying alongside them. The moment American naval power demonstrated that in these waters, there is only one force that dictates outcomes. Freedom requires defenders willing to engage when others fire first. Justice demands forces capable of overwhelming response. Security depends on technology and training so superior that enemies make fatal mistakes in seconds. This was all of that. This was 7 minutes that changed everything. The drug war turned hot that morning, and in the fire and thunder, America's Navy proved once again that when challenged, when fired upon, when American lives are threatened, the response is swift, precise, and absolutely devastating. This was Operation Caribbean Shield. This was real combat. This was dominance.